start off by asking, how many people here like to fish? Okay. Excuse my voice. I've got a sinus condition. I'll try to. If you got any questions, ask me. I'll try to answer them. I thought I'd start at the beginning. Many of you remember Marsh Willis, Ford dealer, W.B. Lowry, Grayson County Supply. They fished Dale Hollow quite a bit. And they developed some hot places in Dale Hollow. It's a wonderful lake for smallmouth. We did have smallmouth in Olean, but E-Town sewer killed them out. So I never hear of one being caught in Olean. Now, Dale Hollow is a beautiful lake, very pure. The area keeps it that way. It's mostly timberland and all over the drainage area. But anyway, Marsh Willis asked me to go fishing with him. Dale Hollow. I've been to Dale Hollow several times. He told me what they were doing. They were trolling. They were trolling this bomb. They call it a bomber. The people who invented it that is slide. The people who invented it, one of them was a pilot, World War II, and he noticed how the bombs would wiggle when they dropped them. So he and another buddy decided they would develop a copy of it. You pull it backwards, and it looks like a crawfish, apparently. A lot of fish like them. Morris asked me to go with him, so I did. Walter Barton, he went off, did his fishing, and Morris and I slept in the boat, got up early the next morning, and went to fishing. And they had a hot spot picked out. It's nice to know where to go. And the first trip we made down there, he stopped at a little island, and we put our lines in, and I caught a fish when we went by. It was a largemouth. His head was that big around. He was about that long. He was sick. He should have weighed 6 or 7 pounds. He weighed 3. Of course, I got a ribbon over that fish. Fish. We went on up the lake, fished to a hot spot, caught some more fish. I was sold. I liked it. So we went down there probably every weekend, several summers, caught a lot of fish. We decided to camp out. place called Lilydale. It's where Obie River is the one that's dammed up, and the Wolf River is part of it. It branches off, and this is right in the fork. So at the wholesale house, we had some small, short trailers. We sold a lot of roofing, metal roofing. We cut the bed off, made it open, and reinforced it where they could set metal roofing down in the trailer with their machinery. We had poles went over for put canvas on it. So we took it with us. We camped in it. We didn't sleep on the ground. We slept on the cots. We had sleeping bags. This was back when Eisenhower was running. He wasn't elected yet, but he had a few days to go. We all signed up absentee ballot and went fishing. We didn't pay attention to the weather forecast. The first day we was down there wasn't too bad. The second day we woke up, 4 inches of snow and 19 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
That's down in Tennessee. We don't have weather usually like that anymore, that early. Paul Miller, a lot of you know Paul. He and I went fishing that day. It didn't snow. We had all kinds of clothes on. We couldn't hardly move. And we went to the hot spot. And we made several pulls through there. And by the way, we used 300 feet of line to get this bomber down the bump on the bottom of the lake. With all the fishing we did with the bomber, we caught one fish out over deep water. The rest of them, we caught bumping the bomber on the bottom. Geez, this rod, they don't make them anymore. It's true temper. It's metal. This is a pure reel. They're built nice and strong, and it's the smallest one they make with a level line. We liked the tip on this because it was sensitive. We could tell what the bomber was doing. And it helped us catch fish. Paul and I went fishing that day. We about to give up, and he caught a smallmouth. Pretty nice one. It came up, shook his head through the plug. When that happened, I hooked him to a big fish. I think this is the fish, but I'm not sure. He threw the plug. We pulled up and started reeling the bombers in. I went to start the motor. I put it in gear. It didn't move. Put it in reverse. It didn't move. Raised it up. The prop was gone. So we lost 2 fish in the propeller. Paul said, what are we going to do? I said, well, we're going to drift over this sandbar and hopefully miss us. Getting about dark. Come get us. Which they did. So we got our engine fixed up, got a propeller on it. The next day, we went fishing. We caught quite a few fish. But it was cold. R.E. Hughes and Walter Barton, myself, Mark Willis, Paul Miller, and a friend of Marsh's that he roomed with when they went to college. He was in Hodgenville. I knew him real well. R.E. didn't have enough cover. We had sleeping bags. He got cold. First thing we had to do the next day is go to Livingston and get him some bedclothes. Keep him freezing. After that, about 54, I guess, Marsh hooked this fish and lost him. So we nicknamed him Old Joe, and we knew exactly where he was. The Shell Point, which they like. They eat a lot of crawfish, and they'll move the rocks and get them out from under. So in 55, Lars and I went down there and we went after this fish. And an elderly couple, where we come up, we had to swing in a cove, get the plug where we wanted it, where this fish lived. And there was an elderly couple sitting on the bank. They had rowed out and left the float fishing out in the middle of the cove. We couldn't make her sweep like we wanted to. So I decided I'd go down on Monday. David Wallace and Ruth went with me. I had a 21-foot aluminum cruiser, which I got rid of because I was doing more housekeeping than I was fishing. I started trolling. Ruth, he got in the cabin and went to sleep. Well, I caught a little small walleye, and I got Ruth out there to hold the rod while I netted it. And she raised the rod up and it got off. I hooked this fish. I thought I was hung on the bottom. He must have hit it going away from me. I grabbed the rod out of the holder and I felt him on the end of it. He came up, shook his head like smallmouth do, trying to get rid of it. And in the process, he pulled this treble hook out and he shook it. And when I got it in, if you catch fish, you know they got gill plates. There was one of the treble hook hooked around it, wasn't in it. It was hooked around it. And it's a wonder I didn't lose the fish. Smallmouth, if you fish for them, you know, you think they're through, and they're not. They're ready to fight again when they get a chance. So I didn't dare cut the engine. I kept it running real slow in a long circle. I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I got to land this big fish. So I banged on the door and the wolf proved up, and I gave her instructions for about 5 minutes. That's all the time I had. And I loosened the drag up in case he decided to go. Well, he was tired. He was floating behind the boat. I decided you don't want to touch a smallmouth with your net until you scoop him up out of the water. If you do, he's gone. You don't give up. So I made sure I got the net wet, and I put I had an outrigger on the boat. I put my foot out on it, and got him behind the boat, and I hit the wheel. I got Ruth on the other side, hold the rod, and let him float around. And I had the net under him, and I scooped him up. And believe me, he wasn't through fighting. I hadn't had a good net. He tore it up. He really put up a fight. I thought, well, got a big fish. I've been fishing all my life. And I've caught a few big ones, not this big. My cooler wasn't big enough to put him in it. You got a rigor mortis. He was bent when we got in. And they weighed him. But you know you got a world record fish? I said, he showed me the Field and Stream kept the record at that time. There's one now down in Florida. They go by the initials. Let's see.
IGFA.
Fish and FAW something. Anyway, they keep the records now. This fish had some fish politics. A lot of it saw in the paper. It didn't weigh this much. So they investigated. Tennessee Fish and Wildlife, another named Mr. Fox. Mr. Duke was senior editor of Bass Magazine. He fished Hell Hollow. They did an investigation. Then they said that fish does. It's a world record. It took them a year. I didn't care much. Another 42 years I've had it. But anyway, Jane Ratcher, she was asking me about all of this. She said, well, it's just a fish. You know Jane, don't you? Well, there's a fellow writing a book about this fish, and the name of it, I told him what the lady said, the name of it will be, It Was Just a Fish. Both of those people did a nice job. This fish was made for a model of my other one. A fellow down that lives close to Richardsville, Bowling Green. Does a real nice job. He's got a plate in here with his name on it. I can't never remember his name. But that's about it. Anybody got any questions?
We got one here.
That's not the world's record.
Anybody else have?
That's not it.
How much did it weigh?
What's the weight of the fish, DL?
Like 1
11
ounce, weighing 12 pounds.
How much?
1 ounce shy of 12 pounds.
Kelly, there's 2 questions.
Okay. Here's another question. Is the fish male or female? I think you've referred to him as he.
Everybody guesses it was female that laid so much.
Y'all can take this for
Wouldn't touch that.
Come back off that.
You better go to the next question.
Where is the real fish? Where is the real fish?
Hanging in my living room.
I've seen it several times. It's there.
The reason I don't have it around anymore, it's hard on it.
I'll have a picture. You ever take a good picture of it? We can see.
I can.
I just really had it, just recently had it done, redone.
And the question was the fish caught in Kentucky or Tennessee? I think you said it was in Tennessee, was it?
Well,
Your article
pin me
said
down.
Okay.
your journal said
Actually, I caught it in Kentucky water, but when they reestablished the world record, I told Mr. Fox, he did so much work on it. I said, I don't care if you haven't put Tennessee on it.
For those of you that know Mr. Hayes, that's pretty typical of an answer from him. Any more questions?
Anybody else have a fish tank?
Kelly, I've always, DL could have endorsed lures all through the years. Did they contact him, want him to endorse lures and fishing bows?
Did anybody ever want you to endorse the lures that you use?
Well, I got about 24 free bombers.
That was back before the endorsement days.
It'd really be worth the money, but back then, they were tight.
That's right.
You got 8 minutes.
And that's about it.
But you want to say anything?
Kelly, a lot of people may not realize, but this Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, well, the Kentucky Department of Motor Vehicles have made a license plate of Hazy's fish, and you see somebody driving around with a license plate is a copy of his fish, and they also made a print.
This is what you're talking about.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, this is what you can buy to put on the front of your vehicle.
Where did you buy it?
Well,
It's considered a vanity plate. You have to pay extra.
Oh,
But you can get it at the courthouse to issue them. But I've got one on my car, but he's too cheap to get one. But it's a nice honor. And by the way, this replicates the print that you see down here. Take a good look at it. That was done by a Kentucky Fish and Wildlife artist. He spent a lot of time and effort to do it. And they sell these prints because they raise money for their organization, which sponsors youth camps and a youth program. So it's
Kelly, hold that up.
Organization.
Hold the picture
I might
up.
add, looking at this map, I'll point out to you, the fish was actually caught in here, which is Wolf Creek, right? Wolf River, it's into the Obie River.
Oh, that's
Cedar
Cedar
Hill.
Hill. But there's
It's
this section right here, here's the state line right here.
Kelly, What is the process there? Is that a painting or photograph?
It looks like a print to me.
It's a print. They make so many
I
of the
realize
print.
it's a print, but the print has to have an original. Was it an oil color or what?
You'll have to talk to somebody that's more versed on that than I am.
Kentucky Fish and Wildlife.
But the original had to be a painting of some
That
sort.
was drawn. They have an artist that draws.
That's awfully good.
Pictures.
But it's an oil.
He
It's
did
an
a
oil?
beautiful job. I gave them permission. They wanted me to sign it, which I did. They sold 100 of them, $150
They
each.
sold 100 of them at $150.
They took the money and put it in for conservation camps for young people.
So that should have a number on it.
I got mine free.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
I have an observation.
I got 6
Yes.
of them. And I told them I
Yeah, he
wanted
was
9
a third
cents.
We lived in Tennessee for a while, and they opened up an aquarium in Chattanooga.
Yes.
And Mom and Dad came down, and we're going through the aquarium, and it shows the different types of fish. And there's a plaque that says, David Hayes, caught the world's record, Bell Oliver.
David Lee,
Yeah.
Like to feed you.
And my daddy, Shy Raleigh
It's in
Smith,
all the.
told the entire place, anybody that would listen, that he was from Leitchfield, Kentucky, and he knew Mr. Hayes. So he was so proud, and I heard all my life about, you think you caught a big fish. Well, let me tell you.
This is a big fish.
So,
Well, the fish, as he mentioned, I was with him, because I was only 9 years old. So my big analysis at the end was, why are they making such a fuss about it? When are we going to eat it? Okay, what is that?
I suggested to Mr. Duke, Mr. Fox, when they went to talk to these people down in Florida, that they putting fish on the record by weight. Go by the length of it and the girth. You can't change it. Save a lot of headaches. So that's what they did. Of course, they had to be different, put it in centimeters instead of inches.
The outfit is called IGFA. It's International Game Fish Association, and it's in Dania Beach, Florida, which is near Fort Lauderdale. And they're the ones that keep the records.
Got a question in the back. How old was DL when he caught the fish?
30.
30.
Yeah, that heads up.
And there's a good photograph that was made of it by Field and Stream with the actual fish.
That stream no longer speaks record.
And on top of that, he got honored about 4 years ago. They named a boat ramp in his honor at Del Holla, and actually it looks out at the area where he actually caught the fish.
Does anybody come close to his record?
Mr. Duke told me that don't feel like you had trouble with the weight. Don't feel like you're special, because everybody that catches a record fish, somebody goes after it.
Well, are you ever going to catch another one bigger than that? You're going to catch one bigger than that?
Has anybody come close?
Go back one slide.
Has anybody come close to his record?
The guy on the left is on Sunday
Yes,
evening
Tim
on
Farmer.
Tim Farmer. He's just got one arm, I think.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He has a program. And then there's my mother and his wife. And then there's the lake. The lake is actually beautiful, as he said. It's very deep valleys at Del Holla. The water's clear. So anyway, it's and there's the artist who actually did the painting.
I guess they don't want to answer that question.
Well, the nice thing about it was we knew where he was, knew where he lived. And
What's the weight of the next
My
closest?
guideline is
I'd like to
fishing
know.
is
I'm not sure, it's 11 pounds or something.
10%, no,
You're saying 11 pounds?
9% buck. That's it.
And if my mother had missed it with the net, I'm sure that would have been grounds for divorce.
That's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
Fish.
Any more questions? Yes.
What's the next closest fish to his
You know what the next fish is underneath you?
There was one caught afterwards. When they took this and all, they put it on. It weighed about a half pound less.
Okay, 8 ounces then.
And it was a little smaller fish in measurement.
You must have got the granddaddy then.
And they took it off when they put this back on.
Now, you know there's two varieties of them. There's a largemouth and a smallmouth. And biologists can tell the difference between them. There has been a fish caught that was actually a largemouth, but because it had grown so rapidly, the mouth was actually small. But the biologists ruled that it was a large